Welcome to Tango Nice Talks. This is episode 13, and today I'm being delighted to be joined by Alex, Elio, and Lewis, who are Steamed Tango Project, which is a new tango-inspired band. So first of all, welcome, and you're all zooming in with me from all over the world, from Australia, Netherlands, I think Italy for you, Elio. And I think for the first question is, that people will be interested to know is, what is Steamed Tango Project about?
Steamed Tango Project is mixing together the sounds from the old tango rhythms. So it's music which basically is danceable with synths and with modern sound, and a steampunk Victorian flavor, which is given by the master of violin, Alex, which is the main instrument, the lead instrument of the band. So we try to create this atmosphere, which is a mixture between tango, Victorian age, and modern sounds.
Yes. But a lot of the steampunk atmosphere comes from your own electronic composition, though, doesn't it? Like you can hear, if you listen carefully, you can hear a lot of very, very distinctive steampunk style sounds, like especially the noise of, like the rhythmic noise of coins chinking and things like that. It's like a little industrial factory or something like that, isn't it?
Also the theremin instrument, which is used sometime, and which is actually the first electronic instrument. It was invented more than 100 years ago. Theremin is the first electronic instrument. It's a Russian instrument.
So the makeup of the band is quite interesting, from the fact that you've got the synthesizers and the theremin, the violin, and you've got the cajon played by Lewis. So how do you find trying to mix those sort of three different instruments together, as far as trying to create something which is danceable in tango?
Well, from my side, first we have the skeleton of the music, the map, let's say, and then we start to add some ingredients, some different colors in the skeleton. And to make music is like to paint. You need to be careful not to add so many colors, because there's no space for so many colors. You need to be really careful and to use the space. And actually, as I'm getting older and maybe wiser, maybe not, I am enjoying more the silence than the noises. So I'm enjoying more the spaces in between. That is the real music for me. And the masters are using those spaces. And so with silence, you can say much more than with noise in general. And so following that skeleton, the map of the songs, we start to put some condiments on top. And for me, it's great when it's that kind of electronic, industrial kind of thing. And I can put the cajon, which is completely acoustic. And I find my way to be working together with that. Instead to be against, for me, is a kind of a team situation, sounding-wise, music-wise. That's the way I take it.
So how did you come up with the writing of the songs? Were you all in the same room together, or were you having to write sort of parts separately, or was one of you sort of writing something, sending it to the other two, and then those two writing over the top?
Usually, I try to find the inspiration to make the first bass. As you know, the basic rhythms in tango are three rhythms: tango, milonga, and valse. So the next two songs will be valse, because we miss a lot valses in modern tango music, in the neo tango scene. So the next two songs will be valse. I try to pick one of this song, and as you know, I'm working as a DJ since 25 years, and I have a lot of tangos in my mind, and I think many people have, and they could not be written already, because you need to have a band, you need to have time to invest and to work with other musicians. So I'm very happy to collaborate with Alex and Luis during this Corona isolation, and I've been this has been very productive and led to create this new project. So we spent a lot of time studying music and picking this basis, and trying to not to make them too rich, because tango dancers have a lot of attention on the small details. So we try to keep it the whole mix very subtle, very high quality, and enjoyable, in order to make it ready for the dance floor, because the idea is to make music which is danceable.
So who came up with the sort of melody lines? Obviously, Alex is playing them. Did you write the melodies over the top of the sort of bass lines that Elio had sort of engraved first of all, or was it?
Well, he sent me these the backing tracks, and basically I just listened. Just the process is I just listened to it a few times, and I start to get the feel of, because there's all sorts of little idiosyncratic things that happen in the music, in the bass, in the backing track, and then because of that, that can then inspire you to hear certain melodies over the top. And so I just basically just play along with it a little bit, improvising, and then those melodies come, and then later on they become a little bit more well formed, you see. So it's just it's like a lot of improvisation, and then that then becomes more set.
So it is roughly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Because I can't really sit down with a manuscript and a pen and just write melodies, because it's not the way I do it. I have to play them before anything can happen. So yeah.
If you sit down with a manuscript, you can write a melody, but it becomes generic. You always need the melody.
It wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, you need it to interact with the actual what's going on underneath the harmony.
Like if I wrote a melody on paper, it wouldn't be very good. I can tell you that.
So it's also different about doing it more improvisational is if you come to perform it live, it gives you scope to actually perform it live and take it to new places.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, sure. Yeah, so what generally happens is I have a rough, it's like a rough blueprint of the kind of feel, and with various melodies that you can repeat because they're the sort of main things. But then after that, you can then have freedom to sort of embellish those things in various different ways when you play live.
So is there plans for you to actually come together and play live?
Yeah, absolutely.
That will be great. That would be great.
If they
It's gonna happen eventually.
As soon as
maybe next year.
Yeah.
I suppose this might be preempting a bit, but Ellie, Ellie, you're involved in the. Are you involved in the Rome Neo Tango Festival, Red Rabbit?
Yeah, sure. I'm the main organizer.
Okay, yeah, that'll be a definite yes.
That's funny.
Yeah, so one of the question would be, would you be would you look to be performing at that at some point?
Yeah, that will be in April next year, hopefully. Who knows? But for sure, that could be a great stage to perform together.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other question as well is, you've got your YouTube channel and you've got 2 tracks already up on the channel, which is Batterby and Kingston. And you have an album which will be coming out, you think, in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So
we will release it in Bandcamp, and with the money we raise, we will also we will invest it in order to publish it on iTunes and all the iTunes, Google Music, and so on.
So what the question is, why Batterby in particular is quite an odd term, and I suppose Kingston, the thing that reminds me of Kingston is Jamaica, I suppose. So what are the themes behind those 2 pieces of music?
You mean about the names?
Yeah.
The names are steampunk inspired. Batterby is the name of a British family, ancient British family, so it comes from there. It's they are steampunk inspired. Also Kingston is not about Jamaica, but I like the key, like kizomba, because the rhythm is kizomba-like, as well as for example, Siempre Me Quedará by Baby, or other songs which are easily danceable by tangueros.
Okay. I suppose another question is, why steampunk inspired?
It's my style, my outfit style when I play to the festival. I like the steampunk style because I love this mixture between Victorian and science fiction, which is style for outfit, for art and crafts and also music. There is
and hats.
Yes, it's like there's also some bands, some steampunk bands which produce amazing steampunk music, mixing all sounds with modern. So I like this idea of science fiction and all stuff.
So that leads on to the question for both Alex and Lewis then. How were you into sort of steampunk genre of music before you started working on this project, or was it something you had to get to grips with as you were coming up with the music?
Well,
yeah, go.
You go, Lewis.
No, go, please.
Okay. Well, I already play. I do my own music as well, and I use Ableton software, but I like to use more acoustic instruments, and so so I quite like that style as well, and I've always loved the art of it, and but I've never. I think the difference between what I do and Elio is that he's actually made it like musically sound like steampunk instead of just combining electronic with acoustic stuff. So, which I do not do. So, but what I did is hearing the backing melodies, and they're written in their own very unique way. So I sort of try and change my style to go along with these interesting and quirky techniques, which sound quite unique to me. I'll say that.
I listened to I think it was Batterby first, and hearing the violin on it, it's an interesting sound of a violin. I don't know how to really describe it. It's not like it hasn't got the tonality of sort of a classical violin.
Oh yes.
It's got,
I like the violin. I was thinking of buying a smoother violin recently, and I decided not to because I like the way my own violin sounds more like a gypsy violin or something, or a folk violin.
Yeah, like
and so that's exactly. So that's why I have this one now, and I just prefer that. I don't like to play with a classical sound anymore.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because it actually matches the style of the music. That's sort of, as I say,
that is interesting.
So,
I never thought of that.
Yeah, what does I listen? I like to listen to things without any distractions. So sort of just lying down with my eyes shut and just listen and just see what's actually happening to the sound. Just because I think that's what makes. You can get multiple people playing the same thing, but there's certain things that fit, which I'm trying to work out why that fits. I think it's part of artistry, which I chose to try and ruin artistry by trying to put a science to it. But it's also there. And I suppose also, Lewis, how did you find playing a sort of in a steampunk style?
Steampunk, that's a good one.
Yeah. I'll edit that out.
Well, in the past, I did a lot of, because I play percussion and drums as well. And I've been playing with so many different bands. And actually, I was on tour with the band from Australia for years, with Luna Loop, that at the time, actually on stage, we mix electronics with acoustic. And so I was a real drummer, and I was playing percussion and electronic percussion. And the singer was playing a lot of synthesizers, but at the same time we have a violin player and a didgeridoo player. So the mix was making it on stage. It was like every single gig was different, and but the art around wasn't steampunk at all. But then I was playing for years with another band that the whole thing was steampunk, but the music. So actually, we've been kind of the look of the band and the instruments was really steampunk, but we've been playing more kind of things like Bob Dylan or Gigi Kell. So it would be nice to mix the the look of that band with the music of the band from Australia, right? To make everything together. But so that's why as well, when I start to get the demos and the maps, as I say before, from Elio, I got right away in the link. And which is more or less what I've been doing for years. So, lot of people, lot of guys who plays acoustic instrument, still today in 2020, they can see machines or they can see the new technology as an enemy. And for me, it's just a tool. I can work together. I never been afraid, or I never been taking the position that the machine was taking my space, or no, it never was like this for me. So
actually, we are also to say that lots of music is bad quality.
As well.
Lots of music in the electronic scene is just guys who produce sounds.
Yeah.
Without a cultural background about music and how and the feeling that it can transmit and the emotions, the vibration it can give. So maybe it's for this reason that electronic music is in some somehow is seen as the evil, whereas there are great electronic musicians as well. I mean, there are people who can integrate and put them together with organic sounds and with real instruments, which is the right way, I think, to let good music happen.
Yeah.
Another question. Do you all dance tango?
Not me, but I grew up. I'm from Argentina. I grew up listening tango, and my parents, they used to dance tango. And then I used to go to a lot of milongas. I am from San Nicolas originally, which is countryside, but I lived 11 years in Buenos Aires. So I used to go to a lot of milongas in Buenos Aires. Milonga from Almagro neighborhood, from Palermo neighborhood, from different places. So tango was always around me, and it's part of my culture. And I'm talking about the lyrics of the tango, because one thing is the music, and other things are the lyrics. It's really amazing, because when you are not a kid anymore, there's always a tango that is talking to you. There's always a tango that is telling you what happened with you yesterday. And maybe that song was made 100 years ago, maybe it was here 80 years ago, 60 years ago. So as older I am, I'm more and more attached to the tango. It's full passion. It's really amazing. It's something that you get it or you don't. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to analyze too much, because it's through your heart. And music is pure passion. But it's a pity that a lot of people that they love the tango music around the world, a lot of them, they are missing the magic of the lyrics in tango, which for me is 50-50. It's amazing. And one thing about tango, I remember how angry was my mom when Piazzolla started to be so popular, because and the thing was that the music of Piazzolla, which for me is a genius, and I love him, was mainly instrumental music and wasn't tango to dance to. So for my mom and for the people of that generation, tango was music to dance and lyrics to relate to. So with Piazzolla, you didn't have that. So a lot of people from the old school, they've been kind of against him, because he wasn't new. He wasn't the guy who came to change things. But of course, I love both. Yes, I love the old school. I love the new school.
Really bad moments, Piazzolla, because he was insulting it in public by the people of the Guardia Vieja, and they really, that there are some interviews where he said that the worst things that could happen to him, they were because of people who were against him, because of his proposal, of his musical proposal, because they were really trying to avoid that. You know, tango, you can change everything, but not tango. That's what they were saying. So it's they were so conservative for their culture, and everything which changed was considered against their own culture. So Piazzolla was melting together jazz with tango atmospheres. He was grown up in a synagogue in New York, and he could hear the sound of Yiddish chants, and he put those kind of fusion into songs. So he opened tango to the world, and if we know tango in Europe, it's due to Piazzolla. What he did in the 80s.
I suppose, do any of your tracks have vocals or lines on them, or they're all purely instrumental?
No, they're all purely instrumental.
Yes. So you're, and I suppose the other question then is, when you were sort of coming up with the ideas of writing them, were you imagine yourself dancing to them as you wrote them, or did you write them and then thought, I can actually dance to this after this?
They come to my mind because of the dance. So the first thing which moves our body. So the first thing I think about is the danceability. And then there is a chord progression. I try to imagine a chord progression, and then it comes a rhythm and melody, and then a melody.
So did it? If you go back to like sort of what people call traditional tango, so tango of the 30s, 40s, and the music was written then. It was written to a musical form of A B A C
A B C A B.
Yeah, that. Yeah. Do you write to that form, or do you go sort of more?
Yeah, maybe you make this question because you recognize this form.
Yeah, well, for me, you always you recognize forms quite a lot in things. You see where, especially if you ever, I'm not sure what DJing software you use, but I use Virtual DJ, and you also get the waveform coming up, and if you zoom out enough, you can actually see the sections clearly in front of you. So, but I think the music I like to dance to generally doesn't have that tango form to it. So, music I tend to like to dance to is sort of like big epic stuff like Pink Floyd.
No, they don't have.
They don't have that form at all. No.
But I wanted to use that form.
Yeah.
It's A B C A B, and each phrase has got a proposal and an answer. This is the old way of writing danceable music.
Yeah. So I suppose you can really drill down into it, and you get the sort of 2-bar or 8-beat sort of phrases, and then you build them up. And I suppose another thing you always got, especially in things like I think it's probably more like D'Arienzo or Desai's stuff. You get like the real contrast in the phrasing as well. So you get sort of one phrase being written very sort of legato, made with strings, and then I suppose this brings you again, Alex. And then the next phrase is very pizzicato, heavily rhythmic, I suppose. So, Alex, when you were starting to play around with your melodies over the top, were you actually conscious of that sort of stuff as well, or were you?
Well, yes, in a way, yes, but I don't see it all in my mind like a grid, like in the. I tend to. I'm tending to be, but I am aware of when when various sections will be changing, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm just responding to the changes in the sections, really. And I find that maybe if I sat down and composed a formal line, I'd probably be then identifying those sections and then planning what to do. But because it's a lot of the development is in improvisation, it means that I'm really just like in the moment playing, rather than using my intellect to think about those formal things, if you see what I mean. Yeah. It's more a feeling thing. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, I suppose that's sort of the idea of improvising. I've got a question for sort of all three of you from different perspectives. So if you were, in the case of Alex and Lewis, sort of accompanying somebody, so say a guitarist, singer-guitarist in Tango, and for Elio, when you're doing your DJing, does you add your own melody lines over the top? I suppose the best way to, or counter melody time, you add instrumentation over the top.
Yes.
How are you always improvising that, or have you got some sort of ideas that you want to put over that, or are you just?
You mean while I DJ?
Yeah, when you DJ. So when you were in Bristol, I think you were playing. What was it? It was definitely Crystallize. You had. It was a number of tracks you played. You had some sort of, I don't know what it was, like a touchpad instrument beside you, which was
this one.
Probably, yeah. I couldn't see it, but there was lights.
A chaos pad.
And obviously, you were adding. I would describe it as a counter melody line, where you would. So let's start with you then, Elio. When you are hearing a piece of music and you want to sort of do something over the top, is there a strict form that you use for your improvisation, or do you just sort of, or have you, as something's playing, do you hear what you think will sound good over the top?
For sure, I would never play over voice without doing. You can just do a backing pad. I got several tools because. I got several tools I can use. I got tools to add rhythm, tools to add backing pad. Very subtle. You can hear them. I got tools to play melodies. It depends on the song. If I want to express myself in this song, in a song which I feel that gives space to the DJ to improvise. Of course, if you have a song with a singer and a very, very rich, and the song which is complete, you don't have space to improvise over it, and it would be it would not sound so good to improvise over it. But there are some songs which are very smooth, and they have just few layers, and they can give you space to express yourself. So I try to identify the music, which kind of music, and the rhythm, and I try to add some layers over it. That's what every musician does, I think, especially in jazz, and not in tango, of course, because in tango orchestras and tango DJs work differently. But I try to add some jazzy attitude.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the other one is from the point of view of like Alex. If you were accompanying a guitarist and singer or something, do you actually, are you playing from sheet music or like some sort of memorized melody lines, or are you making them up yourself
Well, it depends. If it was a traditional piece and it was for a formal tango, it would be, you'd definitely be wanting to play the part that was written, and that's a different thing. But sometimes you can play and then it's nice. It's not strictly traditional or even approved of, but I can sometimes play along to somebody who's playing guitar and singing, but then it's, as Elio said, you be very, very careful not to play so you interfere with the vocal part. Usually that means you wait till there's a natural pause in the singing phrase, and then you just kind of add a little something to the end of their phrase, and then maybe play some long accompanying notes that sit well with the phrases, and then wait for your solo in the middle, perhaps. You see? Yeah, something like that. So you can quickly hear what to do, but then you can quickly hear whether you can play a lot or not very much to complement the song.
Yeah. And just as now, we can move on to Lewis. If you're doing the same with like a drum beat or something, or some sort of percussion accompaniment underneath something which somebody else is playing, how do you add to it? Do you add sort of different rhythms in, or do you just try and find the natural pulse to play along with?
Well, for me, is first of all, depends what I am playing. If I am playing percussion you're talking in live situations, for instance. If I am playing percussion and in the band, there's already machines making the groove or a drummer, I have more freedom to get in, to get out, and to play. And sometimes I follow the melodies of the lead instrument. Sometimes I follow the melodies, the lines of the singer. I'm playing kind of a question answer, that kind of things. But if I am a drummer, I don't have the room to do that, because if I am a drummer, I need to give a steady groove to exactly that happen with other people. So I am the one who need to make comfortable that situation to happen with other instruments. But sometimes what happens, for instance, in jazz or fusion, sometimes when it's coming the solo of the drummer, the other instruments start to play kind of a riff, kind of a line. Yeah. So over that riff, you can solo, you can go around and things. But you know, the groove needs to be there. That for me is always the most important thing. And the song and the melody, that is priority number one for me. And I have to serve to the music, and I have to serve to that, not the other way around. And now in this project, we are doing instrumental things, but when there's a singer involved, the singer always got the priority for me. The singer needs to she or he need to feel comfortable on stage. The tempos doesn't need to be so fast for a singer to be able to phrase it and to put the words in the right place. And so once again, it's about music, right? It's respect to the music and to the song, and to work as a team. So there's always a place to shine, but you have to be able to really wait for that and to listen to the song. The song is talking. The song is telling you when there's a moment to go crazy or to do some kind of a flashy thing. But maybe in the whole concert there's no place to do any flashy thing, and that's more than okay. So need to be like everything. It has to be in the right place and in the right time. I need to be together. So that's the way I improvise when I play with different people. That's the way I respect music, and I go with the flow all the time.
Okay, so yeah, so I was wondering, especially from the point of view of drummers, I know nothing about playing drums other than sort of the names of, like, you got toms, snare, hi-hat.
Yeah.
But when do drummers decide they've got times to put a fill in and things like that? And so sometimes you get like the intensity of the music building, and you have the end of the phrase, and I can understand putting some sort of fill in there. But It's when what else a drummer hears in music and decides how to play along to it is something that's always interested me.
Well, it's drums are coming from Africa, and that's the beginning. But the drum set is an American invention. So the modern drum set actually is a group of different instruments that they decide to put it together for only one guy to be able to play. But before, it wasn't like that. Before, one guy was with the snare, the other guy was with the bass drum. So the drum kit as we know today is an American invention. But still, the roots of the drums are coming from Africa. And the drums are a way to communicate, are a way to talk. So when you listen to the master players, when they play a fill, for instance, it's never just because the fill is telling the other guys in the band what is coming next, where we go. The real drummers, the real guys who really understand what drums are about, they can talk, knowing or not, they can talk that language, and they know that the fills actually are cues. You're giving cues to the band to tell them where you go. For instance, a good example is if you listen to Bob Marley live, one of the best drummers, Carlton Barrett. If you listen to him, maybe you will see and you say, man, but why this guy is playing always the same fills? Or he using only 4 or 5 fills or 6 fills? No, when you can do much more. But he doesn't need to do much more because it's a language. So he doesn't need to use more than 4 or 5 fills. He's telling the band where to go next, where to go in the next 2 bars or something.
Yeah.
So when you listen to really musical drummers, and Ringo Starr is the king of the musical drummers, you will listen why he is always playing for the song. And he never ever tried to flash or to do something cool just for the sake of it. It's again, respecting the music, right?
Yeah. I suppose the other thing is, when you hopefully do come together to play live, how does the songs actually? Can you imagine how the songs will translate live? Will you have to modify parts of them, or do you have to sort of pre-record parts of the synths? Will Lewis, will you move on to a sort of more of a drum kit style setup rather than just the cajon? And I suppose, Alex, would you have to modify your violin setup to be more of an electric violin or anything like that? Or is it the songs actually, you think you could just play them straight off as in the album?
Well, I could do it with cajon as well, but I could do it as well with drums and to respect the patterns I'm playing in each song. But I think for this kind of material we are doing, I think a cajon and some kind of hand percussion is more than enough. I don't need more than that. But let's say that we arrive in the venue and I am not able to use a cajon and it's a drum kit. Just because I have a drum kit, I'm not going to be Keith Moon playing those songs. I will play exactly the same kind of patterns. So try to emulate the cajon, if you know what I mean, and not to play more than that. But that is my take on it. I don't know how it's for Alex. I don't know if he is going to change the violin to play live.
This kind of sound we are making is more intimate
Yeah.
For tango dances. So the cajon is really the basic rhythm which was needed. A drum kit would be too much.
Yeah, I think one of the things is if you go to the classical concert, you want sort of the big orchestra, and bigger the better, just because you can get the full spectacular. But I think when you're dancing with it, especially when you're dancing to a live band rather than just purely listening, sometimes the more stripped out the music, the better, really. So even if you're just dancing to somebody just playing the song on guitar, just strumming along or just doing some finger picking, or just somebody just playing a piano, you can sometimes pick up more in the music from that than you can when there's a huge orchestra or anything like that. So for me personally, I always prefer to dance to live music than sort of a DJ set, unless the DJ is actually doing something added to the music rather than just, queuing tracks and press and play. So, yeah, I think it's always, and also another question you've got is, do you actually watch dancers when you play with them? Do you, when you play your music, do you try to influence what the dancer's doing, or do they influence you back?
Are you speaking about DJing or?
Well, DJing or just playing music live?
No, well, it's a bit different. When you, as a DJ, I can tell that you have to take care of people who are not dancing. So people who are sitting and trying to understand why they are sitting, why they are not dancing, because the main task and objective of a good DJ is to bring everybody to the dance floor and have fun. So if you see many people who are sitting, you try to understand. Maybe he's tired. This guy is tired. That girl is looking at the bar, so she wants a drink. You have to be very careful of people who are not dancing. This is when you are a DJ, from a DJ's point of view. Of course, if you are playing, you're more concentrated about the mood and the stage and the other musicians. When you play together, it's a bit different.
Yeah, so when you do play live, do you actually watch what the dancers are doing, and do you actually sort of play with them and try and influence their sort of dance? So you pull beats, you put maybe put more emphasis onto certain parts, or
it's a communication. It's bi-directional communication with the dance floor. You have to evaluate the stress of the dancers. If the previous song was very powerful, you have to evaluate the stress and maybe put something quiet. You have, well, there are many things to take care of.
So we probably should bring the interview to a close. Is there anything that you want to discuss or particularly talk about or say?
Yes, we're gonna go on tour to UK. As soon we can, please.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely come and see you if you were on tour. Yeah, I'm assuming you probably played Bristol, Nottingham. I'm assuming because they got the strong neo-tango scenes.
I met Alex in Bristol. It was an amazing evening.
It was a good night.
Yeah, it was very nice. And I met you, Chris, also in Bristol.
Yeah, it was in well, I don't think I actually physically met you, but yeah, it was the first time that Anna brought you over. It wasn't the first time Anna had run an event, but it was the first time she'd run an event as.
It was in a rock club, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Trying to remember which one was it?
It was like a rock club.
I remember where you were. You were up on the stage at the back, and it was like, oh, that was it. It was the record shop.
Yeah.
It
was a record shop. Yeah, with visuals from a British guy.
Yeah,
it was a nice place.
Yeah, it was odd. You walk into this record shop, and then there's like this sort of cafe bar area at the back, and then this room going off to the side. So that was a really good night, that one. And then I think you came back to the UK in the February, but it was when all the snow was.
Yeah, there was a big snow, and it blocked all the trains and the streets. That's when I met Alex.
Yes, it was a quiet night, actually, when we met at Anna's event. Yeah. Unfortunately for her, because she put on an incredibly good night.
Yeah. We were stuck. We were hoping. We bought tickets there. We were hoping to come along to it, but the M4 had basically frozen over just by Bridgend.
Right.
So yeah, it was a bit. And also, we live on top of the hill, and the hill had frozen. So it was like That yeah. I think there's quite a lot of like sort of. More sort of neo and alternative stuff becoming more prevalent in the UK at the moment. So, and so I think Elio, you've been up to Nottingham as well with Lorenzo.
Yes, Lorenzo and Ganka. They're making good things to develop the neo tango scene.
Yeah.
And to open the mind of tango dancers to modern and contemporary music. Yeah.
Yes. We're talking, in Wales, we've got more of a traditional scene. So at the moment, we're trying to balance, trying to bring sort of new tango, traditional tango, and also live music, and just seeing what's going out there. We're also trying to push some sort of blues type stuff as well. So, we'll see how it goes.
Also, I see that there are many blues events in UK, and blues dancers. Blues can be considered neo tango, no? Because it can be danced as tango. If you have the tango biomechanics, you can dance very nice blues tunes.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. The flexibility of tango dance and the power of tango dance, because it gives you the tools to interpret with your body so wide range of musical genres.
Yeah, it's amazing. And once again, the lyrics of the blues with the lyrics of tango.
Yeah, they got lots in common.
A lot of connection.
Yeah, myself and my partner Anderson, we've just started really delving into the sort of blues type of thing, and the links between blues and tango. Like, even you just look at like what happened socially at that time, and why those why those songs were written, and why the dance forms started to form, and even like the strong link between the blues and tango, both danced in their own postures, which are very similar. They share very similar move sets. Once you get into making the fusion points really nice. So yes, and also if you go into sort of like the piazzolla and you start adding the jazz influences in, then you've got a real crossover coming through. So yeah, what I would really like to see is like a really good sort of event, which is tango, whether it be neo tango, alternative tango, but then having like the strong blues influence as well, and also kizomba. So you get those sort of and zouk as well. So you get those sort of embrace-led dances coming together. So. But yeah, that's something to.
Well, actually, in neo tango, everything comes together. It's like a mixture of everything which can be danced in the tango embrace. So there is kizomba, there is blues, there is dubstep, there is classical music, lots of stuff. And there is neo reggae. It can be also danced. This neo tango is a flexible container. I always call it like this because it's open to any kind of music which we can tango.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. We'll put links to your YouTube channel at the end of the video, so there'll be a subscribe option for the steamed Tango project. We'll put links to your Facebook page and any other social media down in the description. So as always, we would encourage anybody who watches this to like all those pages and subscribe to your channel. So we would like to thank everybody for watching. And again, thank you to Alex, Elio, and Lewis. And we hope to see you all in person.
Yes, we are finalizing the last tracks, and they will be ready in the internet. So follow us. We will be out with new music and new tracks soon.